and I'll turn it over to Olivia now. Thank you, Olivia.
Good morning. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with everyone. Can everybody see it? Can somebody give me a thumbs up if they can see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. All right, guys. So we're going to talk this morning about mastering the multi-cooker. So we'll go ahead and jump in. Okay, so we have come a long way from cooking on the stove like this to where we are now in 2020. So the first appliance, the first electric appliance was in 1909. It was the electric toaster. So of course, you had to turn it side to side to toast your bread. And then the next one came in 1967, and it was sold by Manna, and it was the first microwave oven. And then in 1972, we had Mr. Coffee, and it was the first in-home automatic coffee drip. And then the multi-cooker, or some people know the brand Instapot, debuted in 2009. And then, of course, here we are in 2020 still using it. So everyone is going nuts over it. I know on one Facebook page that the Instapot has, it has over 1 million friends in it, where people share recipes and videos and ask questions and stuff like that.
Your video, your audio is cutting in and out. We can't hear you part of the time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me turn it all the way up. Is that better, ma'am?
Well, so far, but it's just, it like fades and then it comes back, and it fades and it comes back.
Okay. I'll try to get a little closer. Maybe that'll make it.
No, it faded out just as you started right then.
Oh gosh. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully it'll last for us. All right. So basically, we're just going to talk about the advantages of the multi-cooker, the different functions that they have, and how to cook with them safely. So why would you pick a multi-cooker? So first off, there are fewer dishes to wash, which is always a bonus, especially if you have a large family or cooking for, people every single day. They're pretty easy to use. You plug them in, you put whatever ingredients you're going to use, and you hit the button, and you can walk away. And then they're also safe. So that's an added bonus as well. So why own a multi-cooker? So first off, if you've worked all day and you come home and you're tired, this is a great way to just pour some ingredients in there and set the button and let it cook while you're doing laundry, or maybe if you have young kids at home, helping them with their homework, or maybe you're just can do other tasks. It gives the dishes really good flavor. It really packs it in there, and it allows your kitchen to stay cool and odor-free versus having your oven on and your cooktop and other things running, so it keeps it cooler in your kitchen. So that's always an added bonus as well. So an electric pressure cooker versus an additional, this one is basically an electric pressure cooker with just additional functions. So we'll kind of talk about those. So this one, the particular model I have, it does not do the yogurt, or what's the other one it doesn't do? I think this is the one it just doesn't do the yogurt, and it doesn't connect with my smartphone. So mine is kind of I think mine's about 3 or 4 years old, but it has the pressure cooker on there. You can brown, where this one says, how you would brown meat, and mine says saute as well. But it has the rice cooker on there and the slow cooker as well. So every model is different. You may have different pressures on yours. And then, of course, the newer models you're going to have, they even have one that you can bake cakes in. So you can just research those and look and see what model you think might be best for you if you're considering one. So there's different sizes. So there's the mini size, the 6-quart and the 8-quart. I have the 6-quart, and everything I wanted to cook, I've not had any problems or limitations on it. So that's been really nice, and I've been able to have several larger items that I didn't think would fit. So it holds a lot of stuff. So if you're worried that you want to fit something in there larger, then you can always get the 8-quart. But mine at the 6-quart has been really great. But they come in all different sizes. So we'll talk about the pressure cooking of it. So it's very tightly sealed. It has a really, when you open the lid, it has a very thick seal on there. It has different temperatures, just like a normal pressure cooker would, but this one cooks in about 1/3 of the time. It's very, very quick. And it concentrates the flavor. I was worried, I wonder if it would change the flavor or the texture, but it hasn't. And I've been very pleased with mine. So in some pressure cookers, the food may not be crispy or crunchy, and it may not reach the stovetop temperature of the true with this one. So that's a little different advantage or disadvantage depending on what you're trying to cook in it. So just like a normal pressure cooker, it has the high versus the low pressure, and there's the natural and the quick release. And it's just as strong as a normal pressure cooker would be. So make sure that you are out of the way just like you would. And you want to turn it away from your countertops and underneath your cabinets. Want to make sure that's out of the way so the steam doesn't release on that. My husband did that. And it kind of made my cabinet have a little bubble on the front of it. So that's something to be mindful of if you're new and never used a pressure cooker or a slow cooker or a multi-cooker. So these are actually safer than ever. You can keep the silicone gasket in good shape. You just wash it each use. It says they're dishwasher safe. I personally don't because I was afraid it might get too warm in the dishwasher and change the shape, and I wanted mine to last a long time. So I just hand wash mine. But you want to make sure that you get the vents and very clean after each use and inspect the valves, because if you don't, I've noticed it gets a smell. So sometimes I'll just pour a little vinegar in mine and let them soak a little bit while I'm doing other dishes, and it gets that smell out, because that's another thing I've noticed that people have mentioned in the Facebook page with the Instapot is that it sometimes gets a smell, but if you get it hot water and vinegar and let it soak while you're doing other things, it gets that smell right out. So that's something to be mindful of as well. And you want to make sure that you add the correct amount of liquid, just like you would with another dish. But with this one, just because it has so much more pressure, it can tend to dry out just like a normal pressure cooker would. And then you want to let the steam to escape from you. Like I was saying earlier, make sure it's not pointing towards you or your cabinet or your countertop or anything like that. So we do not recommend these for canning because they do not reach the higher temperatures as your normal stovetop or your pressure canners would. So if you like rice or you like to cook quinoa or grains, other grains like that, this is a good way to cook them in there. I found personally, my husband likes to do brown rice or quinoa in this better than on the stovetop because he says it gets more moist. So if you're a rice cooker or you try to cook yours on the stove and it's kind of dry, and if you get one maybe for Christmas or something, this is a good way to try them. I found that it keeps much more moisture in than a rice cooker or the stovetop. So, but it does take a little bit of an adjustment to use it, but the manual's very good and it'll tell you about the time that you need to cook it and how much water to use, or if you use chicken broth or things like that. So it's really good about that. So the browning or sauteing, it works just like a skillet would. You just put your meat in there and just use your spatula and just brown it just like you would on a skillet, but it's just less dishes that you have to dirty up. So that's always very helpful. So if you're worried your meat won't get brown, you have to brown it before just like you would in a skillet, and then you just put it down in there and pour your other ingredients. Very simple. So it does also have a slow cooker. So just like a crock pot would, it does have a slow cooker function. It reaches high temperatures just like it would if you were cooking something on high for 4 hours, or you can do low, the 6 to 8. It has those same functions built into it as well. So how would you choose a multi-cooker? So you can check reviews from Cooks Illustrated, Good Housekeeping, Consumer Reports, or maybe you just asked a friend or a neighbor, or maybe one of your family members have one. So you want to make sure that when you're looking at them that you choose a non-stick inner pot. So this metal thing that's showing up on the screen, mine is stainless and it does pretty well as well. And then maybe you want to try to do like a whole chicken in it or something, or maybe you want to take something to church. Maybe you want to get the 6 or 8 quart. That way you have a larger pot to fill with. So that's something to consider as well. So just like with anything, whether if you're cooking on the stovetop or in the multi-cooker, you want to make sure that you are keeping your food safe. And we want to follow the 2-hour rule about leaving food out on the counter. We don't want to cook frozen meats in the slow cooker. We'll make sure that they're defrosted. We want to cook food to a safe temperature, and of course, always to use a food thermometer, just to make sure that you're keeping yourself and other people safe, especially if you're taking food somewhere else. And then basically the overview of the multi-cooker is they can replace some appliances in your kitchen. So maybe you have a crock pot and a pressure cooker and a rice cooker. So that could replace all of those products. So if you're trying to clean out your cabinets, this would be a good way you could have get those going and just have one that could do everything. But they don't perform as many things as people think sometimes. So they may not perform as well as your standard pressure cooker or something, but they do perform pretty well. I've never had any problems out of mine. And I think I have noticed is you may need to adapt the recipes. So maybe you're used to cooking a dish the same way. So this one you might have to cook it a little bit shorter. So you might have to add a little bit more liquid so that you make sure that your chicken doesn't get dry, or maybe brown it a little less versus a little more because it's going to cook quicker in the multi-cooker. So if you're looking for recipes or you're unsure, you can get on YouTube, and there's a lot of videos about people performing how to cook with these if you're a beginner, or you can get in the Facebook page, the one I was talking about that has over 1 million people in it. And that's a really good spot and a really good resource for you to use. And also you can buy cookbooks particularly for the multi-cooker. So that's a couple different places you could get recipes from and get ideas for. And also, I don't know if you have a Pinterest account, if any of you guys do, but Pinterest is a great way to get recipes. I get most of my Instapot recipes from there. So that's a good resource as well, that are all free for you to use. So on food safety, you do, like we talked about, we don't want to can these because they don't reach the same temperature as your stovetop would. And we just want to follow basic food safety recommendations about, using a food thermometer, making sure meat reaches an internal temperature for its safety, things like that. So happy cooking, ladies. Does anybody have any questions over a multi-cooker? I'm curious, does anyone have one?
I do.
You do?
Do
you like it, ma'am?
It's okay.
Truthfully, I've used it one time.
Okay. What did you think about it, ma'am?
Look at this.
I didn't like
Wait,
it.
what's this name?
Yours.
You didn't like it, ma'am?
I think if I practiced with it, it would be better, but I don't like my vegetables mushy. I like them crisp, and my vegetables got kind of mushy. But I'm going to check Pinterest for some recipes, and maybe that will help me.
Yeah, you may just need to cook them a little bit less, but yeah, it's a little different to get used to. It took me a little bit too. A couple of my recipes, the first like 2 or 3 didn't turn out kind of like I liked, but once you read the manual, that really helps. And then of course, getting in that Facebook group or the Pinterest, and that really, really helped me a lot. That was a good resource for me to have. Anybody else have one?
Can you tell me what an air fryer is and how that works?
Yes, ma'am. It's kind of, so it is just like it's about this big, and it's just a small kitchen appliance. And instead of using oil like you would in a skillet or a pan, then it just cooks your food at, well, for instance, I cooked pork chops the other night, and I cooked them at 360 degrees, and I cooked them for 14 minutes. So it's similar to the Instapot. It cooks things very quickly, but you put the food in a basket, push it on there, turn it on, and you don't have to use any oil. If you're trying to cut down on oils and saturated fats, things like that, that is a good way. And it helps crisp things more than the Instapot. The Instapot's not going to crisp things up. Like if you want to cook French fries or sweet potato fries, air fryer is a good place to do that.
So what do you think differences versus frying it in the air fryer? I mean, do you really
The air fryer is going to get it crispier, ma'am. Versus the Instapot.
No, I mean the flavor of frying something versus air frying it.
Oh, the flavor? I would say it'd be pretty close to the same. I think it's just going to be mainly a texture difference is what you're going for with the air fryer versus the multi-cooker. Just going to be a different texture.
Thank you.
We,
Yes, ma'am.
we have a air fryer and we use it and love it.
It's awesome. It's so
it-
good.
It is the best thing, especially for fried foods.
Yes, ma'am.
You can bring leftover like catfish and hush puppies
Uh-huh.
and french fries home from the restaurant
Uh-huh.
and put them in there, and they're just like they came out fresh.
Wow, I've never tried that. I've just cooked, like pork chops and steak. I can do a steak in 14 minutes. So that's really nice. What else have we
Chicken
done?
is
We've done sweet
wonderful,
potato
and-
fries.
Chicken is wonderful in the air fryer.
Oh yeah, that's
My husband
awesome.
hated chicken, but now we eat more chicken than we do beef. So
Good. That's awesome lean meat for sure. That's really good. Thank you guys for sharing. I really appreciate that.
I also have a hot pot, and we use it off. Those are our two major appliances right now in our
Mhm.
in our kitchen. But you have to follow your recipes and just experiment with it.
Yes,
they are-
it's a trial basis. It is, and it's experimental. Because sometimes you get stuff a little undercooked. You have to put it back in there. When I first tried it, but yeah, it's really great. Once you get the hang of it, it's just like anything else. It's really great. It's very helpful. Really cuts down on dishes and cooking late at night if you're tired from work or working in the garden, whatever you've been doing that day. Anyone else?
Again, the two sources that you said to look up recipes.
Yes, ma'am. Pinterest is a really good source, and it's free. And then there's a Instapot Facebook group that has over 1 million people in it. And that's a really good resource. There's tons of recipes and videos of other people preparing meals in there. And YouTube is a good one. Can get on YouTube, and that's another free source. And then I'm sure you can find cookbooks and stuff if you wanted to buy one. But it does give you, the manual will tell you, how to cook, what temperature to cook things and how long. And I was a little concerned maybe it wouldn't get them to the right temperature, but I used my food thermometer and I've not had any problems. So I was thankful for that. Any other questions?
I use a liner in my crock pot. Does these use any kind of liner, or do you just clean them out?
Well, in the like you talking about in your true crock pot, or is it a multi-cooker, ma'am?
No, in my crock pot, I have a liner, but I don't have a multi-cooker at this point. So I'm
Okay.
concerned about.
I use a liner personally at home. Yes. I do too. It helps a lot with especially if you're doing, I've done like a honey mustard chicken and trying to get that honey off once it's cooked in there. Goodness. So that really helped. I learned my lesson after the first time, but yeah, that's a really good thing to use as well. Cuts down on time and scrubbing and having to soak it and wash it multiple times to get it all off. Anyone else?
So you said you do use a liner in your Instapot?
No, ma'am, in just a typical crock pot. Mhm.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
I
you don't
mine
use
in
any
my crock
liner
pot.
in a multi-cooker.
Yeah, I
no
wouldn't think you
liner.
would.
In a
Okay.
multi-cooker.
Thank you. I misunderstood.
That's okay. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, it's different to get used to it. Now my mom has one, and she didn't. I don't think she particularly liked hers, but she loves her air fryer, and she uses it probably 4 or 5 nights a week when she gets home from work. She cooks all kinds of stuff in it. So it is very much a time saver for sure. And again, less dishes. That's always a plus as well. Any other questions, ladies?
In the chat box, there's a question about it seems large for one person. So do the Instapots or multi-cookers come in different sizes?
Yes, ma'am. They come in the mini, the 6-quart, and the 8-quart. And they may even have a bigger one from now. Who knows? But that's the last time I checked. It was the mini, the 6-quart, and the 8-quart. So if you have just one person and you're just cooking for you, then the mini size might be a great size for you to try out. And there's all different brands. The Instapot's just a pretty common one, but the Ninja brand makes one, but there's all different ones you can just research online. if you have internet access and get on there and Google. And I'm sure right now would be in the next few weeks would be a great time to get one because of Black Friday sales and things. So if you're considering one, maybe get on there and check. I know the Pioneer Woman has one. Hers is really pretty. It has flowers on it, and I think it's red and has different colored flowers. It's really cute as well. So if you want something that's cuter that you can leave out on your counter, that might be an option to try, the Pioneer Woman. I'm not for sure about the reviews on that one though. I just have personally my own, the Instapot one. So I don't know about the quality, but I'm sure she would do pretty good quality things. I have some of her bakeware and I like it. Any other questions? I don't want to leave anybody out. We good? All right, well, I will close this out and get out your hair. I hope this helped and gave you a good resource and some ideas to try.
Thank you. This was informative.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to use mine again.
Well, good. Yeah, try it out. If you're a little nervous, hope this gave you some encouragement to get back in there and try it out.
Thank you,
All right,
Olivia.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, our next session is at 12 noon, and that is the cooking session. And this is Beef for the Holidays. It's with Carmen Meyer, who is with the Tennessee Beef Council. And that is going to be on a separate Zoom link. So I am going to share my screen. And we will put in the chat box down at the bottom the link to that Zoom. So when you get ready at 12 o'clock, when you get ready to go to that session, you can just click on the link in the chat box at the bottom. That will take you to the Zoom for the holiday, Beef for the Holidays. And then once you're there, when that session is over, we'll put the link back to this Zoom. So you'll transfer back to here. If you are not going to the beef session, you can just come back here at 1:30 and we'll have the marketable skills classes come in a few minutes early that will break out for the marketable skills classes at 1:30. Any other announcements from anyone? Or any questions about the beef session? All right, we will see everybody at 12 o'clock then.
Whitney, you know anything about the settings on the pot?
I was just reading that. No, I don't. I don't have one. And I've never used one. So I really have no idea. I was looking to see if Olivia was still on here, but I don't think she is.
Yeah, okay.
I have one. This is Patsy Watkins. What were you asking?
Well, Judy has a pot, and when she sets the timer, let's say a recipe says you need 60 minutes, she'll set it on 60 minutes and it'll only do 20 minutes, no matter what she sets it on. You think there could be a preset that needs to be disabled there, or do you know anything about that?
It could be, it depends on what brand, because I know like if you're hitting like beef or chicken or something, it will come up automatic, and then you have to use your manual settings where it says manual and your up and down arrows to adjust the time.
Okay, on her pot, she only has manual settings apparently.
Well, she should have a plus or minus that lets you go up or down.
You would think.
You would think, but now every Instapot's different. If she has a manual, that would probably be a good thing to look up. Or if there's a helpline number to call them and ask them.
Yeah, we'll have to, she doesn't even know what her pot is. We'll have to look at and see what her brand is, and we'll go from there. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. You know, if you don't have a manual, if you find the brand, sometimes you can find the manuals online.
Right. She just doesn't have an access to that, but I can look it up for her.
Sure.
Mary Sue, this is Whitney. I got a call the other day about a quilting stash. Is the Happy Hands Quilters